Hi friends, Oracle Alley here, formerly known as Grove Witch. If you missed part 1 of this video, I'll try to link it here. Please go back and watch part 1. This is part 2. We are talking about the stages of spiritual awakening and kind of comparing them to NDE, near-death experiences, and that the awakening and healing journeys are not just straight lines. They're kind of up and down and back and forth and all over the place, and they can be very messy. But it's well worth it, and I just wanted to do this video for people that might be getting discouraged because they feel like they take a step forward and 3 steps back, or they don't understand why they're not getting to where they thought they might, etc. So we left off on my second spiritual awakening when I lost custody of my daughter for a time. Now at 15, I actually 15 at 15, for a while I had been engaged to this man. We were trying to play house. I knew we didn't love each other. He knows damn well we didn't, but we had the house, the dog. My daughter would come over on, a couple days. His son would come over a couple days. We were trying to prove to ourselves we could be the white picket fence family, whatever. Well, and then of course, as the rest found out, he was a narcissistic liar, cheater. So I left and moved back into my parents' house, believe it or not, after everything they had put me through, which I didn't even scratch the surface of. But, my daughter loved it. It benefited me. I didn't have to try to pay full rent by myself at that time. I had a much better job at the time, and I was finishing school. But, and it helped my parents, giving them, and I could help pay for my daughter's tuition because my mother had her in private school that they could no longer afford, so now I paid for her tuition and whatever. So in these last 2 years before she graduated, however, at the job I was at, this is awakening number 3. This was, well, 3 and a half, they were all pretty bad. I want to say this was the worst, but they were all pretty bad. So got involved with yet another toxic relationship. All 4 of my major long-term relationships in my life were very narcissistic, very abusive, toxic. So to try to make a really long story short, I may do more on this later, but he did not wear a wedding ring to work, and he told his story to everyone that he basically had been separated from her for 10 years, and that the only reason they kept the house and lived there is because of the dogs in the house, and he wasn't going to lose it all to her because she was a BIT, in divorce, and she wasn't going to lose it to him, and neither one of them was willing to give up the house and the dogs, and blah blah blah. So he would spend a lot of time at his parents', but then he would go back into the house, and then she would go over here, and they hadn't touched each other, they were separated for all intents and purposes, whatever. Okay, and I know what you're thinking. I have been on both sides, and so I have come at people just like me and been like, you trifling bitch, and you're telling me you didn't know, and how could you, and blah blah blah. And if you think I haven't dealt with a shit ton of guilt and shame, you would be dead wrong, and didn't call myself every name in the book, you'd be dead wrong. And yet at the same time, I had friends getting involved in similar situations who I love with all my heart and never judged them at all for being in similar situations. But it's just very eye-opening when you find yourself in certain situations that you judge other people for, that you never thought you would find yourself in. So did the blinders come down, and did I believe his bullshit, and did I want to believe with all my heart that he was really fucking separated and working on a divorce? And of course I did. And of course, throughout the 2 years that this went on, I found out that their entire marriage, whatever, he had been with multiple women, multiple just at the job that we were working at, and multiple the same time that he was with me. And not only that, but she knew about it. These women knew about it. He thought they weren't going to tell each other about it, and he could get away with it. And because some of them were competing for him, they actually weren't admitting to it until later on. It's like I said, I can't get into it all now. It's extremely convoluted. The one was 25 years older than him, and he had been messing around with her for 10 years. But they they and some of the other coworkers tried to vehemently deny to me over and over and over again that it was happening until I saw it firsthand for myself. And there was a woman that lived next door to our work building that he had been involved with for almost 10 years as well. And there was like a waitress over here, and there was another, and as time went on, it just blew my mind. But yet, the whole time I was trying to tell myself, no, he really isn't. Or if I found out he did, I would try to compete harder and be the smartest and the funniest and the prettiest and try to make him only want me. And he love bombed and he gaslit and he hoovered and he, everything you could imagine. It was just the most toxic thing you could imagine. It brought me down so low that everything that I had built up, I saw it crumbling away again, and I started thinking about self-harm. Well, I did start self-harming again. I started thinking about unaliving myself again, all because of this one bastard. And let me tell you, I will get into some videos about all the tricks and tactics that narcissists use, because it's just unbelievable the way that they can act. And oh, what is the Jackson Wang song? Devil in a black dress. I wish I knew you were an actress. Bullet through the heart. I love Jackson Wang. But anyways, a lot of his songs, if you don't know Wang Jar, I highly recommend, because the poor man's been through it too. I love that we see that men and women go through this. This is not just, I'm not just hating on men. I'm not a man hater now. I am not, you know, oh, love doesn't exist, blah, blah, because of all this. It happens to everyone. And he actually squeezed out tears and would tell me things like, I'm gonna die without you, I can't breathe without you, I can't be in this building if we're not together, knowing you're angry at me, and you know, I swear to God I am going to see a lawyer, and I'm, you know, whatever. I mean, they really can just, you're my soulmate, and why couldn't we meet 10 years ago? And I can't eat without you, I can't. They're good, let me tell you. So it was towards the end of this 2-year period when I just couldn't take it anymore, and I had found a back corner in the, like a storage room of our work that we're not even really supposed to be in, and you could call it divine intervention, because I was ready to, I found a rusty, I don't want to say too much because I don't want them to, you know, whatever, and I probably would at the very least probably got tetanus, but somebody walked in and I didn't expect it, and I dropped it, and I kind of wheedled way back into the corner. I didn't want them to see me, because my brain starts going, oh my God, if they see me, what am I going to explain that I'm doing back here? I'm not supposed to be back here. There's files and shit back here. I'm not supposed to be back here, you know, whatever. And it just jarred me out of this stupor. And I was kind of just like in this daze the whole rest of the day. And then I just came home and just sobbed my eyes out, and I was like, oh my God, I almost just, over this bastard, left my child again, and like, I'm worth more than this, like, what are you doing? And I just cried and cried and cried and sobbed on the floor. And I'm not saying that it was like an immediate, I cut him off and I left that job. I quit the job, I sold the car, I did, that's a whole nother story also for another day. But within about like a month after that, it took me in steps, because that trauma bond is, oh, hard to break, my friends. Oh my God. A trauma bond, Stockholm syndrome, that's what it's like. It's really hard to break. So, but that was when I had the third awakening, and I just heard this voice that was kind of like, okay, are you ready now? Like, are you ready to just really do the down and gritty work? Are you gonna give up, or are you gonna fight? Are you ready? And I said, okay, I'm ready. This is ridiculous. I choose to fight. And I had a dream that night, and I heard Persephone, which is a goddess, and Uriel, which is an angel, and I saw this room, and it was made of crystal, and it was green. It was a light green, and I didn't even realize it was jade, and the whole room was jade. And they kept telling me emotional healing and heart healing, we want to help you heal. And and then I looked it up the next day, and I was like, oh my God, that's green jade they were trying to tell me. And I got a green jade necklace, and then the next day they told me some herbs, and then the next day they told me something else. And that's when like the psychic gifts started to kick in, And because I'm telling you, friends, as soon as they know you're ready and you say, yes, okay, I'm ready, help me. Your angels, your guides, whatever you believe in, your higher self, you have to ask for help. And as soon as you say, help me, I'm ready, they will talk to you, your past on loved ones, whatever. I'm telling you, if you just listen, dreams, synchronicities, the angel numbers, these are all the things that will start flooding in. And I shit you not, this is the craziest thing. Artemis came through at that time too. Those were the first 3 names I heard: Artemis, Persephone, and Uriel. And I saved every message and every picture and every text that bastard ever sent me, because I thought I was going to prove to someone. I thought that, you know, all these women, possibly his wife included, or the woman he had messed with for 10 years, you know, that didn't want to listen or believe what he was actually doing, or didn't care, or had been trying to tell me they really weren't with him, or whatever. I was going to save this, and I was going to prove to everybody what this bastard was and what he was doing, and I was just going to, you know, whatever. And they were like, no, you got to let it go. You're fooling yourself. You think you're saving this for some grand reason. You're not. You just don't want to let go of his text. You don't want to. They were like, get rid of it. Get rid of the pictures. Get rid of the text. Leave the job, or you're never going to heal from this, and you're never going to break this. Those that are still in his life, whether it's his wife or that one woman at his work for 10 years or whomever it was, that's their soul contract with him. They have to want to break it. And they're not ready to face it or break it yet. And no matter if you go tell them whatever or show them pictures or whatever, is not going to do it. That's between them and him. And they were like, you have to. And I resisted, and I didn't want to do it, and I didn't want to get rid of the messages, and I didn't want to get rid of the pictures. And I shit you not, I went to bed, and I woke up the next morning. This was like, you know, a month later. I went to bed, I woke up, it was gone. It was all gone. His phone number was still in my phone as a contact, but every picture and every text was deleted. And yes, as some naysayers could say, that somehow in my sleep, now mind you, I take sleeping pills to be able to sleep. So when I fall asleep, I'm out. I woke up and every text between us, the entire history was gone, and every picture was gone. And I am telling you 100%, I did not fucking do it. No one else's text messages were gone. No other photos were gone. My phone did not frap out in the middle of the night. I didn't shut it off. I didn't do an update. I didn't do a reset. Nothing out of the ordinary happened. I woke up and all of his messages and all of his pictures were just off of my phone. I even told my daughter, and she was just stunned too. And they basically said, like, this is your help. This is your friendly, loving kick in the pants. We took it off because you weren't going to, because we want you to do this and knock it off. And I did. I put my 2 weeks notice in at work, and I sold my car. I left the job, and my daughter, it was June anyways, my daughter was graduating from high school, and we had friends in Ireland, and I had found this job opportunity online, which ended up to be a scam, but thought it was legit at that time. Cashed in my 401k, took all our money, booked the plane ticket, booked an Airbnb, and hopped on a plane and went to Ireland. So I'm not saying you should just drop everything and leave the country, but sometimes that was my third awakening, and that is what it took for me to get away from the toxic family members, the toxic relationships, and to wake up to the patterns that I was still repeating. You know, the thoughts of unaliving myself, the trauma bonds, the codependency, the addictive behaviors, all of these things, allowing people to hurt me, to walk all over me. And we went on our crazy ass adventure to Ireland. So I'll tell more after that story, because that's a whole nother crazy. That did not work out. We ended up living in Pennsylvania with my real father for a while. Then we ended up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts with a girlfriend I met on Facebook who turned out to also be a narcissist. Then we ended up coming back to where we are now with my daughter's side of the family members, other family members who ended up to be horrible, toxic narcissists also. Then we ended up in the homeless shelter for a year and a half. So now, you know, then we ended up very ill with COVID. So, and now we get to the fourth awakening, where this time it was not an NG type of moment where I could have almost, it was not unaliving myself. It was right around the time of COVID. And we were homeless, but then we got the apartment, but then they raised the rent, and then you get a job and you get penalized for being a good citizen and getting a job again and getting off all the welfare and Medicaid and benefits. And now we raise your rent, we take away your benefits, and now you can't even go to the doctor anymore because you can't even afford the health insurance at your good job. And so now we found ourselves moving back in with my parents again, because we couldn't even afford the $1,400 fucking dollars a month for our little shit apartment, and I couldn't get health insurance or go to the doctor, whatever. Thank God I have a hybrid job, or I would have lost it and been homeless again, because I was so ill after COVID. It flared up all my chronic illnesses, which is where I am today. And then realizing, though, this is when we got down to the nitty-gritty and I saw all the cycles repeating, and short about a year after we moved back in with my parents, my mother passed away suddenly, and I'm convinced that also was from the but she suddenly had a stroke and passed, and I am very happy that we had some healing before that. And I did cry giving her eulogy, speaking at her funeral. I meant it when I cried, and the good words that I spoke about her, and we had healing, and I'm extremely, extremely thankful for that. Yes, I was able to forgive and let go, believe it or not, of I could see the cycles and the patterns in my family now, and why she was the way she was. She was the black sheep of her family too. She wouldn't admit it. She went to her grave without admitting anything. And I know now, I believe now, our souls will probably choose to just come back and just repeat if you don't complete what you had contracted to complete. Possibly you'll choose to do it again. And so my heart actually hurts for her that she probably will have to choose to come back and do it again. But even more so, I was determined to be this cycle breaker. And I know that it hit my sister the same way. And I'm so thrilled that my sister and I have had healing now. And my niece and nephew are a part of my life now. And my sister and I, and through our children, are now being the curse breakers of the family. And it's, sorry. So this, for me, is the fourth awakening, where now it's like you did the big house cleaning. It's like moving out of a house, and you moved your big furniture and your TV and your cabinets and your bed and most of your clothes, and now you just have some dust bunnies to clean up after yourself, and you gotta clean the fridge so you get your security deposit back. You're just cleaning the nitty-gritty now, while you're starting to bring the good stuff in. For me, that's the fourth stage of awakening. And not that it may not take everyone 4 stages. Maybe you just need 1 NDE, or maybe it's only 2 or 3 for you. But it's when you have gotten to the point where you're just releasing the last bit of the old thoughts, the old programming, catching yourself if something triggers you, or you know what I mean? You're just kind of cleaning out the nitty-gritty. And they made me think of the movie Mortal Kombat. Liu Kang, I believe, at the end, and I think it's Raiden, I think, telling him, for the final fight at the end, he was like, face your enemy, face your fear, face yourself. That's it, right? I think it was the 3 stages. And I feel like that's exactly what happened in the stages of my awakening. I faced my enemy. So at first I had to put the blame back to the narcissists in my life and place where the trauma came from, the parents, the men, the toxic relationships, the church, the religious programming. Face your enemy, basically. And then face your fears. I was terrified to be alone. This is why I was allowing people to walk all over me, that I was codependent. I was terrified of being a failure, a loser, of people's judging of me, of being the worst piece of shit in the world because I did XYZ, that I could never forgive myself. All these fears and these attributes, shadow attributes of myself. But then that gets into the 3rd stage, or when he's face yourself. And then I had to do the real, shadow work, you know, just like anyone else. It's like Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back when he's at the Dagobah system with Yoda, and he goes into the forest or whatever and realizes his greatest fear is turning into his father. When he chops his head off and he sees his own face, that was exactly, I faced myself. And, you know, yes, I have the propensity to be a liar, a cheater, a drug addict, to be a narcissist like my mother, to be a whatever. We all do. We all are ego and shadow, God and the devil. It's all of it. We're all of it. And you have to embrace and integrate all of it and realize that we choose to do this. We choose to come here so that we can learn and grow and experience. Because otherwise, you're just in the pleroma, you're just energy kind of hanging out doing nothing. Source wants to experience itself, and it's experiencing itself through us. And as hard as it is, and I won't get into this too much because it can be very triggering, yes, we have chosen to be the perpetrator and the victim, the unaliver and the unalived. And we've chosen to be every color and nationality and culture and gender, and we do it all. We're living all these lives simultaneously. We have chosen to do it all for growth. And so really, I feel like in the fourth stage of awakening, you finally get to that point when you realize that all of it is within us. There's nothing nothing outside of us that is not also within us. And it's all us, even, yes, the victim and the perpetrator, God and the devil. It's all within us. And we have contracted with these souls to have these lessons. And on the other side, even as hard as it is for me to say this, because my stepfather is a POS, he is a vile human being, but I can understand now, on the other side, he's not. He is an eternal soul like the rest of us, and we agreed to have, and my mother and her parents before her, and agreed to have this experience, and that I possibly could have been the other party to him or to her or something in another one of my lifetimes. So I know that gets a little deep, but that's where I am right now, where every time I get triggered by someone, I remember we're mirrors of each other. We're all in this together. We're all the same. We're all source. So it's ridiculous to judge anyone. Prejudice, racism, unforgiveness, it's all fucking ridiculous. Really, it's utterly freaking ridiculous. You're judging yourself. You're hating yourself. You're unforgiving yourself. And so yeah, we've all already been all of these things. And so every time, you know, Janice, that's not her real name, but, you know, comes at me and working, well, did you do this? Did you upload this invoice like this? Why, yes, I did. Well, who told you? Well, actually, our department head manager told me to do that. Oh, well, I wouldn't have done it like that. And then she'll walk away and I'll be like, hey, well, you can go fuck yourself, Janice, because I wouldn't do it like that because I was doing what I was fucking told to do. I'm sure we all do it, but I stop myself and I go, is this helping anybody? No. It's irritating you, which causes inflammation. Spiritually, inflammation is caused by anger, frustration, and irritation. For what? Am I gonna go tell Janice to her face that she's a bitch? No. I don't feel like getting fired by HR. Is it gonna change her attitude? No. Is it gonna do anything? No. So let it go. What the fuck's the point? I get angry at my daughter too because she'll grocery shop, but she doesn't like to do dishes, and she doesn't like to clean the cat box, and she doesn't like to empty the trash. So as I'm doing the dishes, under my breath, I'm like, it would be nice if somebody fucking else did dishes for once. I gotta do dishes 3 times a day, and then I gotta go clean the cat box. What is that doing? Nothing. It's inflaming me and causing me chronic health issues. Is it gonna make her do it? No. Are there other things that she does that are wonderful that I'm grateful for? Yes. So these are what I'm just trying to talk about, the little things, the nitty gritty, when we're cleaning out kind of some of the last corners of our closet, cleaning out my closet, you know, the last dust bunnies of our closet. So I just wanted to share in 2 videos, I guess, my 4 awakenings, I call them, on my journey, maybe just to help somebody when you're feeling discouraged or like, why the fuck am I not farther? Or trust me, this has been more than 10 years for me. I mean, well, it's been from 15 to, I'm not gonna say 30 some years, but very specifically the last 9 have been like what I would call like the third into the fourth, or the fourth one. So everybody's journey is different. I'm not saying it'll take that much time for you, but please try not to get discouraged. And I'm just hoping that by sharing my story that this will help someone also. So love you guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.